Hello, hello. This is Kim Ades from Frame of Mind Coaching, and you have just joined us on the Frame of Mind Coaching podcast. Today, I have a very exciting co-host with me. She is a great friend, a past client of mine, and one of our leading Frame of Mind coaches, Rebecca Woodring Buttermore. Did I say it right?
Yes, that's perfect.
The whole thing. Like I don't know whether to skip one word or do the whole thing, but hey, why not?
It all works. It works. I'll
Welcome.
answer to any of it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Becca's been with Frame of Mind Coaching for quite a long time, and I think one of the best things to do is to share the starting point, how it all began. I don't think everybody knows this story, but hey, you wanna give it a go?
I think it was a little bit of alignment of the stars. I own an optometry business practice and was interested in doing some work with network marketing companies. And I had hit a spot in my life where I felt like I was hitting a wall. I didn't know what that wall was, but I figured I had heard about this thing called coaching and that maybe there was a coach out there that could help me through this process. And so I put my sister on the task of trying to help me figure out how do you find a coach. And the stars led me to 5 different coaches. I interviewed all 5 of them to kind of feel out which one seemed to click the most. And you and I kept missing each other. So actually I interviewed 4 of them and you were the 5th, and I never really got a chance to talk to you until I was on the phone with one that I was going to hire. And you beeped in and I thought, I at least need to let this poor woman know that I'm not interested. Thank you for trying again, but I'm good. And you and I started to talk for a brief moment, and there was something about our conversation that really intrigued me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what it was at that time. But you really got where I was, and you seemed to have the answer as to where I knew I wanted to go. So I knew where I was. I knew where I wanted to go. I had no idea how to navigate the middle ground. And just our conversation, really, I was intrigued, and I needed to know more. And so I actually said thank you to the other lady, and we started our journey together.
So I want to just we don't need to give all the juicy details, but I remember one piece of the conversation. The conversation went like this: I think I have a communication problem. And I said, really? Tell me about that communication problem. Why do you think you have a communication problem? And I remember, Becca, you went on to describe this kind of gap that you had between yourself and whoever it was that you were trying to communicate with. I said to you, many people, and I said to you, I don't know, I understand you very well. You speak English perfectly. I don't think you have a communication problem. I think you have a thinking problem. And you went, what? What does that mean? And then I went on to explain, and for whoever's listening, this is actually important. A lot of coaches, training programs, etc., intend to help you communicate better. But when we communicate, when we speak, right, it's almost the end of a process. Yeah. So we speak after we've thought first. So first we think, then we speak. And a lot of times people want to fix the speaking part rather than the thinking part. And what I encourage people to do is say, hold on a minute, before you try to fix the speaking part, which chances are you're not actually struggling with, because you're born somewhere where you learn to speak the same language as the person you're trying to speak with. Let's look at how you're thinking and how your thinking is causing you to say these words. So let's back it up. And so that's exactly, I think, what happened in our conversation.
And it was crazy how it impacted so many parts, all parts of my life. I mean, it wasn't just, there were 2 particular relationships that I had brought to the table that day, one work and one personal, but even with my children, who I felt like I thought I had good communication with them, I realized that there were things that I did on a regular basis, ways that I thought and then spoke that really were impacting the results that I was getting.
So I remember one instance with you, and I coach a lot of people, so I don't remember all the details of everything, but I remember this one. I think you journaled about it, and it was, you were in the car with your kids and they started to fight. Do you remember that one?
Very vividly, yes.
Okay, so can you please replay that for me? Because I think it's a situation that happens to many, many leaders, entrepreneurs, and adults when they have their kids in the car and they think like they're supposed to know how to handle this. So how did it go down?
So, as I'm sure many people have experienced, kids can be crazy. And, you know, as an entrepreneur, business owner, mom, wife, there's a million things going through your head at any given time. I get in the car, we've got to be a certain place and we're supposed to be doing a certain thing. And the kids are in the background and I'm trying to kind of think through things or just enjoy the ride for that matter. And there's all this fighting and chattering and whatnot going on in the back seat. And how I used to communicate, or how I would have communicated in the past, would have been to get very upset internally, maybe not actually try and show that out loud, because I don't want to be a yeller in front of my kids and I want to try and be a good parent. But I would have become very frustrated and tried my best while driving the car to get them to behave in the way that I needed them to behave so that I could find some peace of mind, because my brain was already spinning and they were adding to it. Finding a new way to communicate and or understand how I can bring peace to my life. I ended up pulling over at one point. So we were probably halfway through our trip over to my parents' house. And I pulled into a Starbucks parking lot and I got out of the car and I grabbed my book that I had in the back seat with me. And I went and I leaned up on the hood in the front of the car and I started reading my book, because it was really quiet outside of the car. It was awesome. Like, I got out of the car, I closed the door, and all of a sudden it was quiet. And it took a couple minutes, but eventually, I don't remember which child it was, but one of them stuck their head out the window and was like, "Mom, what are you doing? Where are we? Aren't we going to Lala's house?" And I was like, "Is it quiet in there yet?" And so the conversation ensued a little bit more. And they really, like, I got back in the car and it was a shocker to them. I think more than anything, it was like, "Hey, I don't even understand what happened." And there was some silence that accompanied that. But that was an incredibly different way to communicate with them and take care of myself, versus continuing down the spiral of how do I be a good parent and demonstrate the way I want to and find calmness, but just making them do it the way I need them to do it.
Well, and normally, just to be like perfectly plain about it, is usually parents turn around and say, "Stop fighting."
Do you want me to stop this car? If I have to stop this car, like, that's what I
Right.
wanted to say, like, just shut up.
Right, exactly. And I remember that conversation, because part of what we were discussing is, so like, rather than trying to make them get quiet, don't proceed until you're all in a place of peace, right? So it's okay to pull over. It's okay to take a moment to yourself. It's okay to breathe. It's okay not to proceed in a crazy environment where they're screaming and yelling could potentially cause an accident. It's okay to make a statement that says, "Hey, you know what? When you guys are in a good place, we can continue." Right? It's okay to do that. I don't need you to stop right now. I don't need to force you. I don't need to threaten you. I don't need to do anything, but I do need to take care of my emotional state. And so what you did was you pulled over and you took care of your emotional state. And by doing that, you kind of made them do a double take. Like,
Totally.
What is going on here? Yeah. So the cool thing was you apply a lot of the principles very, very quickly. Right?
I've had some practice.
Yeah. So Becca has been with us for how long? How many years has it been?
8 years now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happened was she went through coaching, and then she and I had a conversation where Becca's a very, very unique person in my world, in the frame of mind coaching world. I describe her as one of the most kind, caring, generous, big-hearted people I know, hands down. That's her title, over and over and over again. And so I said, "Have you ever thought about being a coach?" And so we started the process, and I mean, it's been a while, but she's one of our most amazing coaches on the team. So what I want to do is actually flip it over and say, you've been coaching people for a long time. What stories, examples, cases do you have that I think that our listeners might be interested in hearing?
I have a client that I've been working with for a couple months now.
Okay.
And she's an amazing young girl. So she is much younger than me. She could actually be my daughter, she's my youngest client yet. So that's kind of fun and different for me. But just an incredible amount of vision and drive and determination. And she has bounced back from so many adversities. And so it's been fun kind of finding what are those little things that are still holding her back from really just skyrocketing. And so we have discovered that first we had to figure out, how do you even know what you want? Like, what are you aiming towards? Because if you don't know what you're aiming towards, I'm sure we've all heard this and it's said a million different ways, but if you don't have a goal out there, what you're aiming towards, how do you get there? And then we need to focus on that. And so she got very clear on what she wants, and we were looking at kind of her work life. And she's one of these unique individuals where really I think her personal and work all will combine at one point. But so we had a very clear vision on what she wanted. And she actually has the opportunity right in front of her, like literally right in front of her. All she had to do was ask. And so I said to her, why don't you just ask for that? Because there had been other things that we had come across through coaching that she would say, I would like to, have this person do this or that person do that. And I'm not sure, and this and that. And finally I would say, just ask. And she would ask. And 9 times out of 10, it actually worked out exactly how she was hoping. So it's been interesting to see, one, helping people gain clarity on what it is that they want, and two, what's holding them back from just asking for it, because it's all right there for us. It's all right in front of us.
Yeah. So what does hold people back from asking, right? So there's a game that we play sometimes with our clients. It's the no game. And the no game works like this: is we task our clients with a challenge. And the challenge is to go get as many no's as possible. So ask for the most outrageous, crazy things and see how many no's you can collect. A no counts as a win. And what happens is people plan to ask for things and they expect a no, which makes the blow a little less hard to take. And surprise, they get yeses when they expected no's. So we have one client who got like 24 cakes delivered to her house. She asked for them and she was shocked when she actually got them. And so this is a very interesting thing, is that our expectations often determine our behavior, right? So the thoughts we have over and over again form our beliefs. Our beliefs create our expectations, and our expectations drive our behavior, which then deliver our results. So if we expect a negative outcome, a lot of times that stops us from taking action. Mm-hmm. And so when we expect someone to say no, what happens? We say, well, we won't even try, right? And so that piece of it is an important piece. But what's also interesting is very often our expectations are off the mark. They're not accurate. And the reason they're not accurate is because our beliefs are messed up a little, right? They're out of whack with our desires, right? So in the case of your particular client, she probably has a bunch of beliefs that kind of go something like, I'm not sure what I'm going to get. What if I don't get the yes? What if I don't deserve the yes? What if that person who I'm asking doesn't think I deserve the yes? What if I'm not ready? What if I'm not equipped? What if I'm not educated enough? What if
I get it at the expense of somebody else? That seems to be a big one.
Interesting. So what if I hurt someone along the way?
Right. So great. Right. I get what I want. But in order for me to get what I want, I'm causing harm to somebody else, and I'm not okay with that.
Right. So, and so what we want to do with our clients is really examine those beliefs, because those beliefs cause people to take action that often doesn't lead to the results they're looking for, or those beliefs cause people to not take action that could lead to the results they are looking for. So, at the end of the day, the beliefs you have hold dominion over what ends up happening, right? So, Did she ask?
We have a video chat, not me, but she has a video chat with the person she needs to ask coming up.
So we're waiting. And so Is she gonna ask?
Yes.
Is that the idea? Yes. Exciting. I remember years and years and years ago, a long time ago, I was coaching this woman who was a senior executive of a formidable retail company, big, huge company. And for the prior 2 years of her life, she stepped in as acting president of the company. And in those 2 years of her life, sales and revenues, profitability increased dramatically. What she discovered when she reached out to me was that they were looking for a full-time president and didn't think of her as an option. And she was devastated. She felt betrayed, dismayed, upset. You know, they turned their back on her after all her hard work and dedication. Why wouldn't they come to her for the job and to fill that role? And I asked a simple question. I said, did you ask for the job? And she said, no. I thought that my work and my work ethic and my results would speak for themselves. And it's very interesting because we often forego speaking for ourselves because we imagine that somebody else or something else will speak for us. Interesting, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So here's a question for you. And I mean, I can ask it to myself, but what aren't you asking for in your life? Or what is uncomfortable? I mean, this whole issue of asking for what you want. So there's lots of layers to it, right? The first layer is, do you know what you want? And I have to say, like in my experience, a lot of people start off the conversation saying they don't know what they want.
Absolutely.
And I don't really believe that they don't know what they want. I believe that they don't give themselves permission to claim what they want. Because for whatever—
Find that over and over. Absolutely.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, they feel maybe that they don't deserve it, or they feel like if they say it out loud, it's a little bit uncomfortable, embarrassing, or they have to live up to that expectation or whatever it is. But I find that by and large, people do know what they want deeply if they take a moment to think about it, but they're really, really resistant to state it and claim it.
Yeah, for sure. And that takes clearing out a whole, I mean, that's always littered with beliefs.
Yes. So do you have other clients you're working with right now or that you've worked with in the past where you've been able to really solidify and define what it is that they want?
Yes, that's kind of what we do with each one of our clients. So trying to pick one of them in particular, I can think of a gentleman in particular who, again, it was job related. So funny, these were both kind of career related, but took a position and it was not ideal for him. It was driving an hour and a half each way and this and the next thing. And so it was, why are you even doing this job? I don't understand. He was unhappy with several things about the job, but yet he stayed and stayed. And so we go through, well, why? And what do you really want? And being able to kind of look at what are the beliefs that keep you stuck there. So it's the same thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. And what makes him feel like he has no choice but to suck it up?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. And I find that with clients over and over. In fact, I had a call just this morning with a gentleman, and one of the things that is so fun to see a client's aha moment is that oftentimes as humans, we seem to get stuck in this, I've got a choice. I've got choice A and I've got choice B. I don't like either one of them. So now I feel trapped and stuck. Or I really like this one, but I feel like I can't have it because I'm getting forced to take this one. When we don't stop and look at, hey, there's probably middle ground. There's a C that's available there.
Well, and there's probably C and D and E and F,
right, all the way to Z, right?
Right.
But when we can take a second and understand that for whatever reason, many people seem to be programmed with, I've got this belief that I've got A or I've got B and I've got to choose. And it's fun to see weights lift and eyeballs brighten. I don't see eyeballs brighten because we do all of our calls audio, but you can hear it in their voice. You can hear that, like they take a breath and they're like, really? I have another choice? Yeah.
Well, and where does that come from? It comes from the belief that they can't have what's ideal. They have to settle. They have to sacrifice. They have to compromise. They have to suck it up.
Right.
Yeah. And that has to do with the original statement, which was, it's hard for me to ask for what I want. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I'm not sure I can actually have it. I'm not sure I can have ideal.
From a mom perspective, I think that goes even back to me getting out of the car because if I ask for what I want, am I being a bad mom or does someone else have to suffer for me to have what I want? I will never forget. I can tell you exactly where I was sitting when you and I had the conversation when I was going through my first 10 weeks where you kept pushing on me. How are you taking care of yourself? Like you've got to take time to take care of yourself or you're no good for anybody else. And you hear that over and over. But even when I think about stopping in Starbucks parking lot before I was going where I was going, not only did that help reset me in the moment and kind of take care of myself in the moment, I was then able to walk into where I was going in a much different frame of mind, no pun intended, sorry, but a much different frame of mind than if I had continued down the road another 15, 20 minutes with the chaos that was ensuing behind me and in my brain. So the ripple effect of taking care of yourself. But so back to when you and I started coaching, I pushed against and resisted the idea of taking care of myself first, like a lot.
Sure, you're a mother. You have other responsibilities.
But isn't that selfish? And isn't that like, that's at the expense of everybody else, because I need to take care of this and I need to take care of them for that. And that was a belief that was super, super deep rooted for me.
Well, interestingly, right, as I am pushing you and have pushed you to take care of yourself, like for me, that's a lesson that I have to learn over and over and over and over again. It's a lesson that I have to remind myself of. And it happens like, literally you hit a wall and you're like, oh yeah, go back to the basics, right? Like go back to the basics. And for me, the basics are carving out time for myself on a daily basis to do the basics, which is journaling, movement of some kind, walking, exercise, something like that. Reading, taking care of my food properly, etc. Right? So taking care of yourself, taking care of your physical, emotional, mental state, intellectual too.
Yes. And then I realized how much better I show up for my kids. So I'm afraid to take care of myself first because I'm afraid that that's impacting them in a negative way. But it's amazing how when I take care of myself first, the positive effect that actually has on them and our relationship. Because at the end of the day, that's my most important.
Exactly. But I'll throw something else at you. When you take care of yourself first, your business grows. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that a million times over. And I can't tell you how many times people come and inquire. I just had this conversation this morning. Inquire about coaching. They love it. They love the process. They love the idea of journaling. They love the fact that we're focused on their mental stamina. They love all of it. And they say, but I have this big urgent thing that I have to take care of first.
There's always going to be a big urgent thing.
I don't have time for self-reflection right now.
Right.
And I think to myself, it's exactly the time for self-reflection, because when you're doing that big important thing and you're not self-reflecting, you're compromising your results, right? It's a big problem. And so this whole idea of taking care of yourself allows you to come into your business more clear-minded, more able to handle difficulties and challenges, and also more likely to see opportunities that before you weren't able to see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I've seen that play out in my business over and over.
Amazing. So Becca, thank you for spending this time with me, for sharing your client stories. If anybody is interested in learning more about Frame of Mind coaching, I encourage you to go to our website, frameofmindcoaching.com, and experiment with a complimentary coaching call. It doesn't cost anything, but I guarantee that call will wake you up, stir your senses, make you think, and have you walk away with kind of a renewed view of what's going on for you and why it's going on. So again, frameofmindcoaching.com, and sign up for a complimentary coaching call. Becca, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until we meet again.
Absolutely.